going on, everybody? This is Leonard 313 Diesel Guy here. So I've had to do some repairs to my truck lately, and one of them had me pretty baffled for a little while here. We had a real cold snap here in Michigan about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, where we were in the negative 15s and negative 20s. Now, with this being a diesel, obviously I know I got to worry about diesel gelling. But the gas station in which I typically get my fuel from, I've never had a problem with it. So I go to start my truck up one day and idling kind of rough, hard starting, even plugged in, which really surprised me. So I turn around and start driving to work. Got to work, everything was fine. I had to run to the parts store for one of the work vans, start my truck up, let it warm up, and I start going down the road, and all of a sudden I start getting a dead miss. Don't know what's going on here, really don't. So I continue to drive it, get to the parts store. It's still not running right. So unfortunately I don't have my scanner with me, I don't have any of it, so I can't pinpoint anything. So I get the part for the van and I get back in my truck and I start driving more, and all of a sudden I go from one misfire to now I have 3, and about another mile after that I was maybe running on 4 cylinders, maybe at best. So I shut it down, had the truck towed home. So I checked the fuel bowl. Fuel in the bowl was fine, but I was paying attention to what the fuel pump sounded like, and it sounded, to say the least, like my kid's Power Wheels had more power than the fuel pump. So I turn around, I do a fuel pressure test without a gauge though. What I did is I disconnected the vacuum side and put it into a gas tank. And it wasn't flowing right. It was just barely coming out. Like, as it would come out, it'd just kind of fall out. So then I put it back, the vacuum side back on, and disconnected the side that goes up to the fuel bowl. I wasn't getting anything, so I knew at that point in time the fuel in the tank was pretty well gelled up, and I knew the fuel pump was on its way out the door. So I turn around, I go, and I got a Delphi fuel pump. Not bad in price. Seems to work pretty good. But after I put it on, I noticed I was getting air in the fuel line. So the truck was, when I say long cranking, I don't mean like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Because that to me is beyond long cranking. That's excessive. So what I mean by long cranking is typically when I'd go to start my truck, on the 3rd revolution on the crank and the starter, it would start. Well, now it's doing it on 9 or 10. So I'm sitting under the hood of the truck and I'm listening, and I shut it down, and I got an auto start, so I'm able to sit under the truck and turn the key on and prime the system without having to get in it, which is kind of nice. And so I shut the truck off, and I hit the auto start. It goes to warm the glow plugs, and all of a sudden I start hearing the fuel bowl fill again. The only thing is it sounds like it's percolating, like coffee. Okay, so that tells me I'm getting air in it. I'm getting air from somewhere. Take the fuel cap off. I see no air bubbles. Oh, what the hell? So I start chasing this problem down. Now mind this, I literally, as I did the fuel pump, I did the fuel pressure regulator spring too. The 86 Industries fuel pressure regulator spring. I noticed that compared to my stock one that only had 123,000 miles on it, that my stock one was pretty well wore down. It was about about a 1/4 inch shorter than the new one, which is a lot. So therefore that tells me my return pressure wasn't any good. Anyway, so I put the stock spring back in, see if that helps. No difference. Okay, so I start checking all my fuel lines. I don't find any leaks. I replaced the fuel filter again, along with the cap and the O-ring. Still no difference. So finally, maybe it's the fuel pump that I put in. I crawl underneath the truck, and if anybody has done any kind of fuel pump or disconnected the fuel pump on their truck and put it back in, and is having, and what I say again, an extended crank. I don't mean 30 or 40 seconds. I mean, instead of it starting on the third or fourth revolution of the crank, it's starting on like the 9th or 10th. So this is what my problem was. And if you've ever done any kind of fuel work where you've had to remove the pump and put the new one on, or put the old one back on, I would highly suggest you look here. Crawled back onto the truck, and the vacuum side of the fuel pump was leaking. I've got the little white plastic clip still on it. I know I compressed that fuel line on it because couldn't push it on any further. I even felt the little click. And I take my thumb and my pointer finger just like this, and literally with the clip on it, give it one small little pull, and the fuel line came right off. Okay. So, needless to say, I got fuel leaking everywhere at this point. So I'm limited on what I can do here. And I can't just go purchase that side of the fuel line. So I go up, I plug it back on, just stop it for leaking. I go get some fuel, rubber fuel line, 2 hose clamps, and I cut that plastic piece off, and I hose clamp it. I put the rubber piece in, and I hose clamp it. Turn the key on, turn the key off, turn the key on, turn the key off, get the air out of the system, fill the fuel bowl. All of a sudden, air bubbles in the fuel filter reservoir, or the fuel bowl. I don't hear those anymore. Turn the key. Not only was it better than what it was, but it was better than what it was cranking before. Instead of it starting on the 3rd or 4th, it's now starting on the 2nd or 3rd revolution. What was going on is that little piece of fuel line that plugs onto the back of the fuel pump. There's a small O-ring in there that if you pull it off, chances are, especially if it's got any kind of decent mileage on it, or, like I said, mine's a 99.5, so mine's 20 years old. That's 20 years old worth of vibrating and everything else. So if you've had to mess with that at all, that little O-ring inside of there is probably shot or got a small tear in it, just enough to leak. So, again, like I said, I replaced that. It runs great. And I mean great. Now I just got to put my regulator spring back in, and I'm sure that'll, wake her up a little bit more. So again, if you've ever had to pull the vacuum side fuel line off, and now you're having extended cranks, and I see this a lot on, the internet, people trying to figure out why their truck is cranking like this. Check the fuel pump. See, it might not even be leaking, but it still might be sucking air. The easiest way to tell, go under the hood, have somebody turn the key to the on position, and listen for what sounds like a coffee pot percolating to make coffee. If you hear that, then you're getting air in the system. And again, check the vacuum side of the fuel pump. A lot of people are having this problem and have not figured this out. And a lot of it, they've done fuel system repairs. They've dropped the tank, put a new pump in it, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Check the fuel pump. Even if you haven't touched the fuel pump, check it. Because again, at 20 years old, that's 20 years old worth of vibrating and having fuel shoved through it and everything else. So again, check the vacuum side of the fuel pump. Now I have another problem. My pinion seal is leaking. When I was under there doing the fuel pump, I noticed this. I got a vibration that starts at 45 mile an hour. Now this is racking my freaking head too. I can't figure this one out right now. But again, it's really kind of too cold for me to go out there and tear the cover off the rear end and, measure, pinion movement and all that other stuff. It's too damn cold to do this. So, I got a pinion seal that's leaking. It looks like there might be a weight missing off the furthest part of the pinion side of the drive shaft, but I could be wrong. It just looks like it. 45 mile an hour, I get a vibration that starts. As soon as I let off the throttle, vibration goes away. Sometimes I can drive out of it. Other times, it'll stay with me, no matter what I do except for letting off the throttle. It always goes away when I let off the throttle. Prime example, yesterday. I drove 40 miles on the freeway yesterday. 70 mile an hour, cruise lock, didn't vibrate at all. The day before, I couldn't get it to stop, no matter what I did. The other problem I'm having is every once in a while from a dead stop, I hear a click. The easiest way to describe this click is like somebody having a rubber band around their wrist, pulling it and letting it go. And you get that quick one snap. And that is exactly what this sound sounds like. And it's only one time. And it's not even at every stop. It's like every third or fourth stop it'll do it. I've tried putting the truck in neutral, and this is the weird part. I can't get it to do it. If I put the truck in neutral, unload the diff, put the truck in drive, keep my foot on the brake, and load it up, I can't get it to do it that way. It only does it when I come to a stop at a stop sign and go again. And even that, it's not every time. And it's only one snap or one click. It's loud enough to hear with the windows down, and you can very faintly hear it with the windows up. And like I said, it's not all the time. If anybody's got any ideas on whether that's a U-joint, a pinion bearing, please direct me in the direction in which I need to go. The truck's going into the shop on Monday. Yeah, that's right, I said a shop, because again, it's too cold for me to be out here doing this. And in all honesty, when it comes to rear ends and backlash and everything else, I'm not too keen on that. You put me under the hood and I can figure it out and I can fix it. You put me, under the suspension, I can figure it out, I can fix it. Rear ends and transmissions, not my strong point. So, if anybody's got any ideas on what that might be, please leave me a comment or below. Leave me a comment below, and any kind of help would be great on this. Again, Monday I'm getting the truck, looked at and diagnosed. Whether I park the truck for a couple days more until I get my income tax return, or I can continue driving it for a couple weeks more, again, until I get my income tax. And that's where I'm at right now, is I need to figure out if this one snap every once in a while is something that I need to be parking the truck for, because if it's a pinion bearing, I don't want to take out the ring gear and everything else, because that'll go from a $400 fix to a $2,500 fix. And I say $2,500 because I don't use AutoZone parts for this. Dana Spicer. This is a Dana rear end. It's getting Dana Spicer parts. It's that simple. So again, any ideas, please leave a comment below. Monday night or Tuesday, I'll post another video on what they find. And if you're experiencing this problem too and you haven't figured out, Monday night, Tuesday morning, hopefully when I come up with the answer, it'll help you out too. This is one of those situations that, again, I don't know exactly what it is, and I'm sure there's people out there having the same problem, so I hope this video helps anybody that's having any of these two problems that I have described and gets them through it. Obviously the first one, that might not be the problem, with the fuel pump if you're having an extended cranking period, but just do yourself a favor, give it a look. I mean, literally, it cost me $1.50 to fix it. A piece of fuel line and 2 clamps. That was it. But again, this clicking rear end, no, this is driving me nuts. So, anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Y'all have a great night, great weekend, and God bless. 313 Diesel Guy, 73 Love, guys.